Who from the SEC or from the ACC could do some damage in 2026? I'm going to give you guys a few. And I think that this is interesting in my opinion. Number one, I think that Georgia Tech has an opportunity to do some really, really big damage in the season. Why do I say that? I understand that you're going to lose a bulk of what you guys had this past year. I understand that there is not a lot that you're going to have returning, knowing that you're going to lose one of the best quarterbacks that has come through Georgia Tech in quite some time. Here's the thing, though, man. I really like what Brent Key has done in developing guys throughout his time. They are not the most talented team, but somehow, some way, they always find a way to get to bowl games and to have success in those bowl games. Didn't look good the last 2 years, but nonetheless, you are getting to bowl games. You have to finish, though. 2026, Georgia Tech is going to have a pretty interesting schedule. One that I think they could steal a few here and there. You start off with Colorado at Bobby Dodd. I expect you to win that game. I think Deion Sanders, by the way, we'll get to our hot seat list in a little bit, but I'm going to tell you one guy that's on there. And I think Primetime might be one of the dudes that's going to be on that list. Number 2, I think that you start off 5-0 on the season. You knock off Tennessee at Bobby Dodd. I think that you have the depth on defense to be able to contend with a team like Tennessee. And as much as I like Tennessee, guys, here's the problem with what Tennessee has done. They have not been able to win a big game out on the road. They haven't. Not in the Josh Heupel era, not at all in the Jeremy Pruitt era, but none of the previous coaches that have come through Tennessee since Philip Fulmer has won a big game on the road. That's why I think Georgia Tech should be favored going into this one. I think the development of a guy like Alberto Mendoza, I understand that he's not going to be what Haynes King was last year. He does not need to be. To me, he's a little bit more dynamic than Haynes King. He can throw the football really well. He's got a really pretty spiral. I think he's got a better deep ball compared to Haynes King. I think he's a bit more mobile, but I don't think he's going to take hits like what Haynes King did this past year. Haynes King was an old school Navy/Army type of quarterback. That's what he reminded me so much of. Do I expect the same thing to happen from a guy like Alberto Mendoza? No. I think it's going to be a completely different concept with what they're wanting to build around him, but I think it's still going to be very successful at the end of the day. Talking about the amount of guys that you have around him, it starts with Justice Haynes. Guys, that was a massive, massive getting a guy like Justice Haynes from Michigan. The guy was on his way to a 1,000-yard season if he doesn't get hurt. And every game that he played in, he had a 100-yard game except for USC. Let me repeat that. He had a 100-yard game in every game that he had this year aside from USC. That is impressive. That is absolutely impressive. That gives me a lot of confidence that despite you losing a lot of dudes from this past year, a la Jamal Haynes, who's now graduated, you are going to be able, I think you got a better running back in Justice Haynes. He is a red zone threat. Number 22 is going to get the carries a lot of the time for the Ramblin' Wreck. And I love the name Ramblin' Wreck because that's what Justice Haynes is. He is very dangerous in open space. And when you get him between the tackles, if you're one-on-one with him, you better be the low man winning because he's going to run your ass over. That's what Justice Haynes brings to the table as a running back in this Brent Key system that I think is going to be fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. That's why I think that you can build around an offense like that. When we talk about the defensive side of the ball, what was the biggest thing that Georgia Tech struggled with that kept him out of the college football playoff? It was DB. It was the lack of a pass rush. I mean, listen, this was not as good as this past year when you compare the pass rush from 2 years ago of Georgia Tech compared to this year. It just wasn't. Just wasn't. And I don't think anybody should have expected that to be the thing. Georgia Tech also defensively struggled greatly. Struggled greatly in a lot of aspects in the ACC when it came to pass defense. Guys, you had a 3-game stretch where you averaged about 500 yards given up. You gave up an average of almost 500 yards a game in a 3-game stretch. You were 10th in the ACC in points per game, gave up 25 a game. When it came to pass defense, you were 9th. Rush you were very, very mediocre throughout the season. 15th in rushing defense. That's unacceptable. You've got to get run stuffers in the middle. You probably need to revamp almost your entire defense. That's why that you went out this offseason and you got guys to follow you there. I think when you get guys like Tajay McCoy, when you get Jordan Walker, Vincent Carroll Jackson from UConn is a sleeper, man. I really liked his tape, and I really liked watching him in the middle. I think he did a really good job in the times that he got to be on the field. Guys, he's going to be really dominant. You get edge rushers like Noah Carter, who I really like. You have people that you can rely upon. You got 19 transfers. Guys, I think they're all going to play a fantastic part in on your team. Defensively, you're going to be improved. Offensively, you're building around weapons. Jalen Mbakwe, I would expect for Alberto Mendoza to throw the football to quite a bit. It's going to be a lot of dinking and diming this upcoming season. That's what excites me when I talk about a guy or a team like Georgia Tech. That's what really excites me, is their ability to matriculate the football down the field, find open receivers, and be consistent. That's the ultimate thing that when you look at Georgia Tech, that's what they are. They're consistent. Only problem is that it's only on one side that they're consistent. Defensively, you've got to find edge rushers. Defensively, you've got to be better in pass defense. You've got to own the middle. That's how you're going to end up with a victory every single week that you step on. I think you start 5-0 to start the season Virginia Tech is going to be interesting. Your toughest stretch this year is at Clemson, Wake Forest, and at Georgia. That's my opinion. Those last 3 games are going to be critical for you. I would throw Louisville in there if it wasn't a 3-game stretch. But really, November is going to be D-Day for you. I think 8-4 is definitely not out of the question, but they could be a sleeper team that could get to 9 or 10 wins. I really believe that about Georgia Tech. I'm that confident. Let's talk about the Virginia Cavaliers. You're coming off of one of the best seasons that you've had in a long time. How do you counter off of that? Well, you went out in the portal and you got dogs. Losing Trell Harris, who's now at Oklahoma, is going to hurt. But you know what? The addition of a guy like Bo Pribula as your quarterback, I didn't expect it. And I don't think anybody in college football expected it. I thought Bo Pribula was going to go back to Virginia Tech to go follow his head coach in James Franklin there. I thought that was a done deal. And it wasn't. Ethan Grunkenmeyer goes and follows him to VT. He ends up at Virginia. He'll be battling Eli Holstein for the starting job, but I think the favoritism will go to Pribula. Bo Pribula is a very dual threat type of guy. And I know the stats are going to say, well, he had 11 scores and 9 interceptions. Guys, he can be a very, very good quarterback. Make no mistake about that. He possesses this trait that I would call clutch. If he's in the game and if he's healthy, I can guarantee you that the percentage or the chances of you winning a football game go up significantly. That's, in my opinion, is going to help Virginia at the end of the day build upon what was already a signature year and a pivotal year for Tony Elliott. Because we were this close to seeing Tony Elliott being kicked out of Virginia. Very, very close. Let's talk about some more. I like the fact that you got Zion Wilson in the middle from East Carolina. He had a magnificent story. Guy started off as a walk-on. Guy had to work his ass off to get to where he is now, coming off of a 20-tackle, 7-sack season. And my God, he is going to be a special talent. I have no doubt in my mind over what qualities that he has as a interior defensive lineman. The strength of Virginia last year was their front seven. I thought they showcased excellent poise. I thought they showcased how dominant they had been. That's why Virginia came out with the third best defense in the ACC. It's because they never let anything get past them. It's because they owned the line of scrimmage so many times throughout this year. Even though you're going to lose all ACC guys, you're getting some dudes that can be even better, like Zion Wilson, like I've already mentioned, Matthew Fobbs-White, who I thought played significant off the edge. When we talk about Brandon Hillman from Michigan, but I think that if there is one player on this Virginia roster that I know is going to make an impact as soon as he get on there, that's Peyton Lewis. And I know what you're looking at Virginia, you're saying, well, They're not a top 25 recruiting. They're not a top 25 transfer portal class. They're just out. They're a top 50 though, man. They're a top 50 offense or a top 50 portal class, and there's some underrated names in here. I really like Peyton Lewis. I really do. And dude, he's special. He's going to be very special at this level. Didn't get a lot of playing time this past year. Only had 70 carries on the night. But man, he's a red zone machine. Another red zone machine that you're going to need. Man, I really like what he provided in a Tennessee running back room that was deep with Star Thomas, Deshaun Bishop, and company. You think about what Tony Elliott is building right now in Virginia, and it's through these portal classes that you bring in some underrated talent. He did it with Chandler Morris this past year. Took a chance on a guy that had been in college football for a very long time, and he struck gold. Struck gold. I think it's going to pay off for him in the end. I think Peyton Lewis is going to be one of the more underrated backs in all the ACC. What's so interesting to me is there's so many of these guys that in the portal, they're not going to get a lot of attention because of how deep it is. There's like at least over 5,000 dudes in the portal that go to different programs. Virginia's just gone under the radar, and they said, hey, man, we know that you're not going to get the looks you want, but we know what type of talent that you have. Come play for us, and we'll make you into a star. And I think dudes actually believe that. That's what should be most important when we talk about teams like that in the ACC. It's really what I think. Let's talk about Louisville, man. How good can Louisville be? I really liked what they were able to do this past year with Miller Moss. Jeff Brom is a quarterback whisperer, and it is kind of scary at times. It's weird to see that, to see them have this type of success and to see what they've been able to do, getting these quarterbacks that at one point were stars, whether it be in high school or had success their freshman years, and for them to be in the Jeff Brom system and have this type of success, that should say something to a lot of people. That should say how good that of a job that he's done as a quarterback. Should say a lot. It's just my opinion. I think when you talk about what he did with Jack Plummer coming from Cal, did a really solid job with him. Wasn't the most flashy Louisville quarterback, but definitely started a trend that was to come for Louisville. When you talk about what he did last year with Miller Moss, I thought it was a really solid get for you. What you did the year after with Tyler Shaw, longtime guy from Texas Tech, former starter in a New Year's Six Bowl with Oregon. See what he did in his last year with Louisville. Every quarterback that has come through the Jeff Brom system has had really good seasons. And by the way, the common trend is they've been guys that have been in college football for a while, and they come to Louisville to get better development from the Broms, Jeff and Brian Brom. Louisville is the perfect place for a guy like Lincoln Kienholz. Here's the difference in each of these quarterbacks. Lincoln Kienholz has not been a starter yet. He's played in 12 total games, so he's the least experienced quarterback that Jeff Brom has had in his time at Louisville. Jack Plummer was a starter at Cal. Tyler Shaw was a starter at Oregon and Texas Tech. Miller Moss was USC's starter in 2024 to start the year before Jaden Mayava came into play. And now Lincoln Kienholz comes in. So he's a redshirt sophomore. He's got he's a redshirt junior. So he's got this year and next year to develop as a quarterback. So you're probably going to get him for 2 more years, depending on what you do. I think he showcases poise in the pocket, not going to run the football as much compared to his counterparts. I think Brom's going to give him the keys to this offense, and he's going to say, hey, man, this is yours. Let's roll. We're going to surround you with the pieces, and I want you to produce. He's got guys to throw the football to with Trey Richardson from Vanderbilt, deep play receiver, gonna have some big games in the slot. Lawayne McCoy from Florida State. A lot of potential for this young man. 4-star guy coming out of high school. Averaged almost 15 yards a catch this past season. Had some games where he popped off. That Florida game was a great example. 6 for $110. That was his coming out party, and that was what he needed to get some more film out there, which got the attention of the Louisville coaches. You get Marquise Davis, who backed up Ahmad Hardy. Didn't get much playing time. But I think he's still going to be special. Crazy as it seems. Flashed in limited playing time, but a very, very long. He's had a 100-yard game before. Had 77 against Massachusetts. That's really it, though. I think he can develop into a guy that's going to have 700 yards this year and get maybe 25, 30 receptions this year. You're going to have to feed him the football a bit, but that's what's so unique about the Brom system is that anybody that touches the football is not a specific position. They're what we call athletes. They are. And that's what I like so much about Jeff Brom's offense is that it is so wide open. It is so unpredictable. You don't know who's going to get the football next. And because of that, you're able to disguise a lot of different looks. You're able to disguise a lot of different packages that you bring in. And you're able to flood out your receiver room, and you're able to make a lot of big plays. But the underlying issue that Louisville has had in recent years has been their defense. again, seems like the same story but a different day. Hopefully things change. You get Mark Ivey and you promote him, who's been at Louisville for the past since 2019. Long time head coach, started in 1996. He has never been a defensive coordinator at the college level until this year. What does this look like? You fired Ron English after last year, which I never liked the move anyway. I don't even know why you brought back Ron English to Louisville. Didn't make sense to me. But anyways, you get a fresh start. I don't know, though. I thought that Jeff Brom should have gone out and gotten a defensive coordinator that had a lot of more experience instead of promoting from within. How many times has that ever worked out from promoting from within? Hardly ever. Hopefully this year will be a bit different for Louisville. I still really like what they're getting from an offensive standpoint with Lincoln Kienholz leading the charge. I really do believe that he's going to do a lot of great things this upcoming season.